Welcome back to This is a Commander channel, where this is a Commander channel, and today I'm going to talk about Commander, Tough Rules, and Cool Interactions, episode 134. Today's episode is going to take another look at the combat phase, and my last episode in this miniseries was over a year ago, so it is long overdue. The thing I'm covering today is for sure one of the more common situations encountered compared to other things that I have covered in this entire series, and this means that for a lot of you, you will already know the answer as you've already encountered it many times. But for a lot of newer players, this means that it is likely something that they're very, very likely going to encounter. I said likely twice. And be confused by it, possibly. So let's just jump straight into it. You control a Sawhorn Nemesis, which is a new creature that says, as Sawhorn Nemesis enters the battlefield, choose a player. And then it also says, if a source would deal damage to the chosen player or permanent they control, it deals double that damage instead. And now you go to attack the same opponent that you choose as it entered, and you attack them with your Colossal Dreadmaw. Well, that can't be right. This card is trash. Nobody would run this. Okay, and now you go to attack with your Carnage Tyrant, which is a 7/6 creature with Trample. And then your opponent assigns their only blocker, a 2/2 bear, to be the blocker. They are at 12 life, the defending player. Because of the damage doubling replacement effect on your Sawhorn Nemesis, you assign only one of the 7 trample damage to their bear, as it will then double to 2, which is lethal. And that means you have 6 more damage to assign to the defending player, which, after being doubled, will be 12, and that means that you will win. Congrats! Yay! But sadly, that's not congrats, as that's not how things should work by the rules. As always, we will look to the comprehensive rules, and we will head to the section covering the combat damage step, which is a whole lot of stuff. So we're going to go specifically to CR 510.1c, and I'm not going to read the full rule, as it's got a lot going on that is not particular to what we're covering in this episode. But there is a section that states, when checking for assigned lethal damage, take into account damage already marked on the creature and damage from other creatures it's being assigned during the same combat damage step, but not any abilities or effects that might change the amount of damage that's actually dealt. And the Sawhorn Nemesis does have a replacement effect, so that means that we are to ignore that effect when calculating the lethal damage to that 2/2 bear. You must assign 2 of your 7 to the bear. Then that means that you will have 5 remaining combat damage to assign to the defending player. After damage has been assigned, it will be dealt, and the bear will end up taking 4 damage, 2 doubled to 4, and the opponent will only take 10, 5 doubled to 10, leaving them with 2 life. So, some of you may know that this is different when compared to how Trample and deathtouch is handled, and I actually covered that in more depth in multiple different scenarios, including things like Double Strike on the Trample deathtoucher, indestructible for blockers, and blockers with protection. So for sure, check that episode out for those details. I'll link the video down in the description below, as well as put it in that little thing that should be popping up in the top corner of this video. I'm trying to use these YouTube tools, but you may have to go easy on me for that episode, as that's one of my earlier episodes, and the sound quality isn't all that great. But the short version is that deathtouch is actually a modification of the damage itself. So when being assigned, the game already knows and treats it as just 1 damage being considered lethal damage. Whereas with replacement effects like the one that we see on the Sawhorn Nemesis, those things look forward in time to the event that they would be replacing, and then they happen. They don't replace that event until that event actually happens. So that 1 damage doesn't become the 2 damage that is lethal until that damage is actually happening. And it hasn't yet happened when you're still assigning it. So that's why the game only sees it as the 1 damage that is not lethal at that point in time. It doesn't yet see it as 2 damage. I hope that this made sense. Discussing the nature of how replacement effects look into the future, it can always be a mind-bending thing. So, to make up for the possibly hurting of your brain, here's a bonus scenario. You have enchanted your Carnage Tyrant with a lifelink, giving it, well, lifelink, and the defending player has previously cast the One Ring on their last turn. And so they're still under the when the One Ring enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you gain protection from everything until your next turn, benefits of it. Despite not being able to be damaged by you and your creatures, they still want to kill your attacking tyrant, so that you don't have it next turn. And therefore, they assign their Deadly Insect as a blocker, which is a 6/1 creature with Shroud. Clearly, you only need to assign 1 of your 7 damage to the Deadly Insect to kill it. But can you assign more than is needed? Your Tyrant has that lifelink on it, so if you only were to assign 1 to the insect and then 6 to the defending player, you would only gain 1 life because they have protection. You wouldn't actually deal that 6 damage to them. So is it legal for you, by the game's rules, to assign all 7 of it to the blocking insect and 0 of it to the defending player despite having Trample? Can you ignore Trample when you want to? Anyhow, that's all I've got for today's episode. As always, I hope that all of you have found this video to be entertaining at least, and I hope that a few of you have even learned something about the crazy rules in this great game of Magic. Have a good one. Ta-ta!